Chad, thanks for joining me on the show today. Tell us a little bit about yourself personally and professionally.
Yeah, well, Andy, I've got a great life down here. I've got 4 young kids. We're one of those crazy families. I've got this awesome wife that's super supportive and kind of rolls with us. Our love and our passion is in travel. So we go all over the world, and then our other passion is sports. So these 4 kids are each involved in about 10 sports. So we're constantly running around. My afternoon is going to be a whirlwind today, but that's kind of who we are. I mean, you guys all know families like that. We're that nuts family. I mean, we got 4 kids going 4 different directions. Professionally, the thing that pays the bills, I'm a sports-based chiropractor. So we've got this clinic down here and it runs really well. And we kind of specialize in high school and college sports. I mean, where I'm at, it doesn't have a lot of professional teams. When they're in town, we're the ones that work with them. And then we do a lot of adults that are interested in, maybe they're weekend warriors or just staying in shape. And basically our kind of motto and our life set is never get old. Like how do we keep pushing this idea of healthy lifestyles, So that's
Very
that's
cool.
who we are.
Very cool. Yeah, you made a great point in a recent episode of your podcast that you are more likely to die of a heart attack than you are a terrorist attack. I agree with you, but tell us why that is.
Yeah, well, it was neat. A couple episodes ago, you had the one that you did about how you increasing your chances of survival, and I thought, man, this is exactly what we need. So, I've kind of told you professionally who we are and personally who we are. Well, I love the tactical training stuff too. So on the sidelines, I work with our police departments. I get really involved with the tactical stuff and run the guns. And I've just seen this huge overcommitment to the least likely scenarios. Now, I think that's super important. I think if you're training for an unlikely scenario, that's very smart. You had Tim Larkin on a few episodes ago. I think his book is probably the best at that that's ever been written on.
Sure.
Like when you get to the end, it's life. Like you have to get through. So I think that's great. But I also see failing to train for the most common as irresponsible and careless. So when we look at the numbers, going back on your episode, I think it got to gunshots at like number 58. Right? They had some weird numbers. They're like, right,
number 58 on that one.
All these things that happen ahead of there that make a difference on your lifespan or your ability to live a good life. Where's the focus on this? So yeah, when you look at the numbers, it's cardiac stuff, it's lung stuff. You are going to die from these things way, way more frequently than you are from an airplane falling out of the sky or a mass shooting. And I just think in the tactical training world and the security world, we don't see that a lot. We get caught up in the fun stuff and we don't see it. So that was kind of my line to push. Hey guys, wake up a little bit and let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the facts. I mean, it's not Las Vegas. You can play the odds here and it works out in your favor a lot.
Right. And, I got a huge response from that episode, and I really am looking at our episode like it's a follow-up to that, because I could only say so much just as a dad and as a person, but here you are as a doctor. You're going to help us out later on talking about this kind of stuff. But why do you think we kind of get that skewed view of, I need to focus on what happens if somebody breaks into my house at 2 in the morning? What do I do? And I know because I wrote a book about that scenario, because that's the thing people worry about. So let me address it. But why do you think that is? Why do you think we get caught up in that stuff?
Well, I think there's a couple factors. One is I think the fear factor is a major thing. I mean, you put fear in a human, especially an American human, and we're going to start paying attention. I mean, that sells. I think it's and it's also the fun stuff to train. I mean, I'm assuming you're a guy like me. Like I have 50 flashlights, man. I mean, it's just cool to try the different things out. I mean,
yes,
you can go to the sporting goods store and there's an aisle of holsters. I mean, there's just, it's cool gear. I do this little co-host on a TV show here in town, and I dressed up one day like that, and they're like, what's up with the boots and the watch? And I'm like, well, this is called tactical. There's a lot of guys that do this stuff. They're like, well, I've seen them. I just kind of figured they were all operators. Of like, yeah, no, we're just regular guys that love the look, So I think there's a lot of factors to it. How you eat your breakfast, that's not sexy. That's not cool. I mean, this stuff's been done for 50 years. And I think that's really where a lot of it is. I mean, when you it can still sell. It's still $1 billion industry. It's not as cool. And, you take my day-to-day job where people come into the office and hey, doc, how do I, when I run, my knees hurt, how do I make that feel better? Well, I can make you feel better, but you're gonna have to really work on your running. Like, this isn't something I can do in 20 minutes in
Hmm.
my clinic. This is
Sure.
something you're gonna have to change your lifestyle, and that's tough. It's way easier to go buy a security system than it is
Hmm.
to say I'm gonna take the next year of my life and make myself more athletic. It's just
Right.
a daunting task. So
It
I think there's
is.
a lot of factors working against people getting in better shape, or
Right.
even
And
being aware of it. I mean, the
mm,
situational awareness stuff that we talk about every day, it just doesn't happen in the human body aspect. People are
mhm.
not situationally aware of what's going on because it's a slow process. You didn't gain 20 pounds this weekend. You
Right.
gained it over the last 2 years. You didn't unlearn how to do the hurdles in the last couple of days. It's because you haven't done that for 30 years. I mean,
Hmm.
that stuff, it takes time and it's slow. So we don't see it happening.
Right. And you talked about a lifestyle and making lifestyle changes. You know, the CDC gives us this great list of the top 10 ways that Americans die. They
Yeah.
don't call it that, but I do. And it's stuff
Right.
like lower respiratory disease, diabetes, and the number one killer is heart disease.
Yeah.
Like, why are these conditions causing so many deaths in Americans?
Well, we just run the course on it. I mean, if you take out heart stuff, lung stuff, and nutritional disease, and then you really want to get fancy and add accidents to it,
Hmm.
I mean, man, you're changing America. You're changing the world. These
Hmm.
things, they add up to us. And I think, especially on the doctor side of it, when I go to the seminars on fitness, obviously it's a different thing than when I go to the doctor ones. The doctor ones tend
Hmm.
to focus on, here's what your heart's doing. I tend to look more at, what about just getting out of the way of a car that's coming
Hmm.
screaming at you, just being able to have some agility. So it's not a problem that's new. It's been going like that forever. When you look at the world as a whole, there's a really cool book called Factfulness that came out about 12 years ago, and it looks at numbers. It's actually, we're in much, much safer, healthier, longer living
Sure.
time than
Sure.
at any other time in history. I mean, this isn't the medieval ages where you're going to get eaten by a pack of wolves traveling to the next town. And when you get there, then you got to fight the gladiator. I mean, it's not happening. So our world's better, but I think it gets reported almost in a skewed response too. Yeah, you're going to die of heart disease, but it's also 15 years later from when it was going to be
Hmm.
just a century ago. So we're on the right track. It's just kind of losing awareness of it. And really, when you look at that CDC top 10, it should be super eye opening. This
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
this isn't 30 cases a day. I mean, it's millions. It's the
Hmm.
significant chunk of our population. Yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be hard for us as Americans to kind of make this change. And you kind of poked fun at it in a podcast.
Yeah.
And you said, and I love the title. And by the way, I'm totally ripping your title off for the title of this episode. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Good.
And the episode was, are you healthy enough to survive? So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So it's my all-time favorite podcast we were doing, and I actually came up with the idea sitting through one of these tactical seminars, and they were talking. It's a group that I love, and I'm looking around the room, and I've got guys that have $3,000 guns, and they can run it like John Wick. They're
Hmm.
awesome.
Hmm.
And in the afternoon, they said, "Well, we're going to get down on the ground and do some prone shooting," and three of them in the back, like, "Well, I can't do that. I can't get down on the ground." And I mean, it
Mm,
just that
right.
episode for a podcast came to me in about 30 seconds. I couldn't type
Hmm.
or shout it out fast enough. And I'm like, oh man,
I know that
we
feeling.
we got to get to work on this, because I don't care how good you can run your gun. If you can't get behind cover, like, that's the first thing they're going to teach anyway.
Right.
So yeah, that article, out of all of them I've ever done, that's the one that I've gone back to the most. That's the one that I've ended up doing more lectures on. It's the one that got me the little TV show gig. So it's really cool, but it's kind of my wake up to the reality. Let's do the numbers, and then here's things that every human should be able to do to get themselves out of harm's way. I mean, you've had some of the top names in the industry on your show, and these guys will always say, do whatever you can to get away from the
Hmm.
accident. The
Yes.
fun stuff at the end, that's when you're in a corner and the bad
Hmm.
guys have you, and it's you and your family at the very end. I mean, you're 150 episodes plus into this, and you say it every single time. Here's how you prevent it from ever happening. And there's so many things that we can do on a personal level to prevent this stuff. And the way I wrote that one was that exactly. And I didn't want to bring up the Vegas shootings. I didn't want to bring
Right.
up the scary stuff that people see. So I tried to have some fun with it. I made it the
Hmm.
Chucky doll from Halloween, from the
Yeah.
scary movies chasing you. And could you get away from this guy? Or what happens if the Russians and the Chinese invade, like our favorite movies from the 90s. And now
Hmm.
we have to try to survive in the woods. I tried to make it like that, where it was eye-opening and still had some humor, but kind of like, yeah, you're right. I probably couldn't run across the street to save my life. And
Hmm.
that has to become a switch, just like it does when you're teaching home secure dad stuff, a switch on like, oh yeah, I probably should lock the door at night.
Right.
I
Right.
probably should I keep a gun in my car and I leave it unlocked all night in the bad neighborhood. I mean, it's just
Right.
these obvious things that aren't obvious until someone's put it in the right light for you to be able to make a turn on it.
Right. And you brought up a lot of good points about, it's a lot of people try to train for that last moment where they're going to have to be brave and do something, but nobody really thinks about, okay, well, let's take it a few steps out, and let's
Yep.
also make sure that, yeah, I have a plan, but I can physically execute that plan so that I can be there in
No
those final
question.
minutes.
No
And
question. And we kind of follow the same people. The guys that you bring up and know are the guys that I like to follow on social media too. And they will show these little 30-second clips all the time.
mhm,
And your mind works like mine. Well, what happened to the 2 minutes before that got you into this situation in
right,
the first place?
right,
And, you and I have seen dozens of police that are trained for this,
mhm,
and they can't handle the adrenaline spike even. I mean,
right,
these are professionals. What's a dad supposed to do when I'm at the baseball game if the cop that's been waiting for this moment and trained for it can't get his magazine into the gun? I mean,
mhm,
it's incredible to think about the physiological responses that happen with this stuff. And just like like I said, like you want to train for the least likely scenario. That's important, but
right.
it's careless if you're not even looking at the most likely scenario, because the most likely scenario is walk across the street and avoid the crazy guy that's babbling. I mean, it's easy to find
Been
these
there, done
things.
that.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and you just kind of hope, you talked about, you try to want to make this kind of stuff lighthearted and fun, and there are always people who show these videos and they do breakdowns. Chris Pendas over at Staying Safe
Yeah.
Self-Defense does an excellent job of that, but then there are these people who do that and they're not as tactful as like Chris is, and I don't like to do those videos. But Tim Larkin brought up in the last my last episode, he's like, when I see these videos, I have to say, what's the time step on it? And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's true. I always look, here's this thing where this dude got beat up, walking down the street, but it was also 2 a.m. How
Yep.
could that have been prevented? Because, you or me walking down the street, maybe we can take one guy, three or four. No. And if they're
Yeah.
on mind altering substances and not really feeling pain, it's going to be a lot harder for
No
us.
question.
So
Yeah.
stay off that street at, 2 a.m. I mean, I appreciate that. And I think to kind of speak to this, I've heard people like yourself and even Ed Calderon talk about the importance of cardio in survival.
Yeah.
Why is that particular form of focus important for us?
Yeah. So going back to the fitness world, cardio is one of these 10 pillars of like human performance that we bring up all the time. So, there's strength, there's stamina, there's endurance, there's cardio, there's balance, there's agility. Cardio is the one that gets you, it's just kind of the baseline. It makes
Mhm.
your fuel tank bigger. You've
Okay.
got a bigger gas tank if your cardio is going. So it's really cool. My background is I was a college football player, and then I worked with the NFL prior to kind of getting into the whole chiropractic thing. It's a completely different game the way they train these monster athletes than it was even 20 years ago,
Sure it
because they
is.
make these dudes run now. In
Mhm.
my era, especially my dad's era, well, don't make the linemen run. They're going to lose all their weight. They're going to be affected. No. You need cardio. You need to be able to have some endurance to keep going. And you imagine, I grew up as a wrestler.
Mhm.
When you haven't wrestled, or you take a great cross country or basketball player and you wrestle with them, they're gassed in 30 seconds. Having some sort of cardio and some endurance, it's a life changer for you.
Yeah.
You're in a fight, and you've seen it, like you'll see the two street guys that have got no training in the world. 30 seconds, they're wiped out. Whoever can stay up standing wins that fight, then they can just walk away. But I agree with Ed 100% on that. Cardio is well, I think cardio, strength, and mobility, those are the three pillars you have to have. I think in our era, they kind of taught flexibility. Now we're kind of changing the world and we're going more mobility. Like you need to be able to move more fluid, not just how far your hamstrings can stretch. But those three things are the baseline, because as much as cardio gets emphasized, I think sometimes strength gets de-emphasized. You got to have both. You got to have both. And what you're seeing, my world revolves around so many different circles, but I love watching like the strongman guys too.
Mm-hmm.
They're in shape.
Oh
Those
yeah.
strongman guys. I mean, Ross Edgley swam around Britain. He looks like a
Yeah.
bodybuilder.
Yeah.
That's the way it's going now. I mean, these guys they're the masters of all 10 things. And then where that translate into what we're talking about today, those are the guys that are going to live the longest and probably have the most productive lives. They're still in their 70s having fun. I got guys that were in the office yesterday, 70 years old. He just went on a surfing tour all across the world. I mean, that's where we all want to be. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
let's forget the danger and avoid the bad. I mean, we want to still be having fun throughout our life too. So it's got multiple aspects that people need to look at.
Yeah, man. I think your 70-year-old patient's living a better life than I am right now. So
Yeah.
good
And
for
it's,
him.
yeah. It's just a good way to be. And that's really, I mean, it's not like we have a family motto in stone or anything, but that's kind of how it is. My wife and I had kids late in life, and it's kept us young. And I don't want to be the dad sitting in the stands where someone looks, I'm like, oh, it's nice your grandpa came to watch. And I'm like, no, I want to be the guy that's out there with them,
Right.
So it's real important that we get that. And it's funny being a college football player. We didn't have cardio. We're just big meatheads that can run into stuff. And it's funny how it's changed in my life, through my 30s, how I really got into this different aspect and kind of got into Tough Mudder stuff. And I'm like, man, it's the cardio changes your life. Like, and it's so easy to work on. People make it such grueling, like, nobody wants to go for a run. Well, then don't make running your thing. It's so easy to fix this part of it where the misinformation it gets people scared of it.
Cool. Well, give us some exercises that we can do to survive in life and maybe survive, a critical incident.
Well, so that article, that Are You Healthy Enough to Survive? If you can get through the basis of it that we just talked about, I have 12 things that you should be able to do, right? So you got to be able to run. So cardio comes with there. And this doesn't mean that you need to be able to go and do a marathon, but it's 60 feet to cross a street in a normal downtown. You should be able to sprint 60 feet and get across there in 6 seconds. That's saving your world. So train some of that. It doesn't have to be your same sprint that you had in high school, but as a man too, it's just good for our hormones. You need to have strength. So make sure you're lifting stuff. I've got a ton of marathoners that come to my clinic. My clinic's kind of based up on marathoners and triathletes. And so many of these guys just don't have the strength. They've got this Ferrari engine that they've put on a Pinto body. And I'm like, you can't, it doesn't work. It's going to break down. So make sure you have some strength component, and then make sure that you're working on mobility. The old way of like stretching your hammies out before you're going to go play a pickup game of basketball is out. You need to be able to squat down and get stuff. You need to be able to crawl. You need to be able to do like burpees and just be able to move fluid. And what's cool is it just comes. So you're going to be frustrated and your audience is going to be frustrated because I didn't give you any specific exercises. I just kind of told you the basis of what you want to do. And that's really the key to this whole thing, Andy, is that you don't want to just have a specific set. I don't want you doing what your neighbor's doing. What's been done, the stats are all there. Diets work, workouts work. It's the adherence that makes a difference. Find something that you will do and you're going to go with it. They all work. If you're talking diet and you want to lose weight, keto works, intermittent fasting works, counting your calories works. They all work equally well, but only one of them is going to work for you. Or it might be a version of that that's not out there. And the same thing goes with workouts. I was a personal trainer forever. I still do that stuff. People come and like, write me a plan. And I'm like, I'm going to give you the information. You're going to write your own plan. And it should always be fluid and changing. If you've got a goal to run a Tough Mudder in 6 months, well, your workout should be tailored towards that. If you get asked to go train with your local SWAT team and they're going to put you through an hour where you're the bad guy and you get to be the terrorist for a day, well, that's what you want to train for. So have those things in mind. I just got back from Alaska and we were hiking through the thickest, deepest woods. I had no idea that was the country. I was not prepared for it. And I feel like I'm
Wow.
a guy that's kind of prepared for everything. And man, it absolutely zapped me. Absolutely zapped me. So, you know, come up with a goal if you can. Find something that you're looking at doing down the calendar and start to adjust your training for that. But make sure it's got some component of cardiovascular, you know, where your heart rate gets up, and it's got some strength and it's got some mobility. And be okay be okay being a little weird with it. You know, I go through my neighborhood my workouts are always at lunchtime. I go through my neighborhood by work, and everybody knows me there. There's a crazy bald guy. He's carrying a 90-pound Atlas stone, and he's doing push-ups in my front yard. Yeah, he's been doing that for 10 years because that's the stuff that I want to be solid at, you know?
Right. And you brought up something about being in your neighborhood. You go out at lunchtime. Another thing that we can do, and I do this when I go on walks with my family, I walk the dogs, that sort of stuff. I see what's going on in my neighborhood. I'm like, hey, that's a new car down there. Oh, somebody's moving out here. You know, I try to look for little things that's going on in my immediate environment to try to understand better what's going on around me and what's happening when my kid plays out in the front yard, what's normal and what's not normal. So going out and, you know, doing a run or going out for a walk and seeing your neighborhood and seeing what's going on has a lot of bonuses.
Man, you nailed it. If you're the secure dad, you have talked about it over and over again. Be aware, especially of your immediate surroundings. Who has the garage door open that never does? You know, where's this white van that has some company logo on there that you've never seen before? And the other cool thing about working out in your own neighborhood is you're not walking around like the paranoid guy keeping tabs on everyone. You're not on neighborhood watch. You're just some dude out for a walk and a jog, and you're paying attention. It's spy work, man. It's spy craft. And so now you've taken the thing that you don't like to do in your life, the fitness health stuff, and you've made it tactical again. And now you're back in your game. You're back in your wheelhouse. 100% I'm with you on that. And I would say really you're lucky I haven't called you after every single episode. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And you can do this, because I listen to your show and it just jives with me, because there's so many things that you're getting done all at the same time. And it really helps you be aware. And it's cool how everything that we do as parents and as the adults, it trickles down to our kids, you know? So my mom came to visit a few months ago, and she did a scavenger hunt for all the kids. And the kids all went around the neighborhood and who's got the blue garage and where's the white car. But more than that, they were on recon. Those kids came back and like, hey, Dad, there's a dude over at Kate's house, and I've never seen this guy before, and I'm not sure what he was doing. It's
Very good.
really
Very good.
It becomes obvious without you even out there searching for it. Yeah, absolutely. Like, train in your neighborhood, train outside. It's good for us to be outside anyway. So there's so many. What you're doing is you're making your life more efficient. You're combining all these different things in your life and doing it all in one setting, you know?
Very cool. A minute ago, you talked about going hiking out in Alaska. My family likes to go hiking as well.
Yeah.
I haven't made it out to Alaska to do it, but what are some fun activities that we can do together as a family that will promote fitness and health?
Well, I mean, I don't think hiking you can get any better. You're outside, you're in nature, just having fresh air and listening to sounds. I mean, it's my son's second grade teacher one day had a project where they had to walk outside, close their eyes for a minute, and then start to open their eyes and draw what they heard. And I thought, what a cool way to like take in nature, you know? Hiking's my all-time favorite. I love, you know, we live on the beach down here. So of course we're surfing and beach going all the time. It's ways that you can take fitness and make it not work. You know, this should be, like you said, if it's a real lifestyle, it's not like, oh, I'm this fitness junkie and it's going to be my lifestyle. No, you make your life where you do things that you're moving. You know, I don't go out and surf and think that that's a workout. I go out and surf because I want to ride a wave, and it's super cool. I'm terrible at surfing, but my kids are good, so I had to get good.
Right.
So I love that one. Beach activities, the scavenger hunt. Did you guys grow up playing Jailbreak? It's like a version of hide and seek, but all they have to do is see you. I mean, that's fantastic. You don't see adults out there playing with their kids, and I don't get it. It's fun to do. I mean, we talk about the Thanksgiving football game. You can do that with your kids at any time. Like it's all these different movements. You're in your neighborhood. You're getting to know your friends. You're building these social communities, and at the same time, our bodies are moving. So yeah, I mean, you can come up with a million of them, and I just just get with your kids, man. The whole idea of secure dad is you're enjoying this life with your family. It's like, let's spend some time with our families, no doubt. No matter what you're doing, just do something.
Very cool, man. Well, we're wrapping this up. We're getting close to Halloween, and let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I need your medical advice on this. Do you think the average American could survive a zombie apocalypse?
Yeah, the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, no, that's great. You know, I've actually spent some time thinking about this question before. I told you I'm on this local TV show here, and
Mhm.
it's funny, the episode we're talking about, Are You Healthy Enough to Survive? They said, would you do a Halloween episode of it?
Mhm.
So we did the Chucky doll and we did the zombie apocalypse. And yeah, no, man, I think exactly like World War Z and Brooks is coming up with. I think there's a 1%er that's left, man. I don't think many can make it. I mean, the
Yeah.
zombies never tire. We're
Right.
going to talk
That's
about
true.
Ed saying we need some cardio. Those guys don't take a day off, man. You need to be able to get ahead of them and then get a
Uh
rest and get ahead of them again. No, I don't think so, man. I think we're in a world of hurt. Of course, you and I would. I mean, we'd still
uh
be around, but it's the other people that would go for sure.
yeah.
No, I don't think most of the world's got any chance of that.
That's cool. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Right. That's bad news.
Well, Dr. Peters, man, I appreciate you being with me today. Tell everybody where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, so I've got two kind of different sites I work with. One of them is called Sports Doc DC. That's kind of more the medical stuff, just like every field, nutrition, healthcare, tactical training, security, it's just flipped over on its head in the last 10 years. Well, the medical health and advice has as well. I mean, the diets, the stretching, that stuff's changed around. So most of the stuff on Sports Doc DC is health stuff. And then I've got kind of this sillier one on just hacks and lifestyle called Be Awesome 365. And that was the one that I kind of started. It's the one that usually my dad calls me up and is like, did you just write an article on how to take a better shower? And I'm like, well, yeah, Dad, we spent 2 years of our lives in the shower. You better be a Jedi at that. So those are the
Hmm.
two. I've got Be Awesome 365 and Sports Doc DC. And I'm kind of always flirting around with what direction to go with these and where to go. But that's where you can get a hold of me and you can look at some of my info if you like my style. I try to keep everything deep knowledge, but in a very, very simple way. And then I
Hmm.
try to add some humor to it.
Yeah, man, I totally understand that. Well, buddy, I appreciate your time today. You have a
Yeah,
good
you
one.
got it. Great to be with you, man. You keep doing it. You're doing a great job on this stuff, and I love being a part of it.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you.